What's going on, FA Nation? I'm Justin Fensterman, along with John and Pemba, and you are watching the Fantasy Alarm DFS NBA live stream. 9 games, 9 zillion chances to win. John and Pemba wrote the playbook at JandPemba777. I'm at FenSty Sports on Twitter. John, what's going on, man? How you doing?
Hey, Justin, doing pretty good. Obviously, a lot of breaking news, as always, in the NBA. Fortunate to get it now, though, and not after roster lock, so we still have an hour to go ahead and make all those lineup adjustments that we need to make. The biggest news, one that we were sort of expecting, but we at least officially got, was the Giannis news. Giannis is out, had the birth of his child today. Congratulations to him, but that impacts DFS world and the landscape tremendously when he's out of the lineup, because it boosts the value of Bledsoe, Middleton, and Ilyasova greatly.
Chris Middleton, 51 points the last time Giannis was off the floor.
70 DraftKings points he went for last time he sat.
Right, and he did well in this matchup also with Giannis on the court, recorded a double-double. So we will talk about Chris Middleton and why he must be in all of our lineups and other options throughout this stream, because with Giannis out, a whole bunch of open shots and time of possession. So you got to talk about that when it comes to the Bucks tonight. John, let's start with the point guards here. Let's talk about Trae Young. And this is interesting because with the Atlanta Hawks coming off a double overtime game, fatigue could be a factor, maybe not for Young, but still, you're still willing to pay for him, even on DraftKings, over 10K?
Well, I think he's actually becoming more of like a contrarian play for all those reasons you just said. 1, it's the second night of a back-to-back. 2, it's a double overtime game. And 3, they're on the road this time. So they had to travel after a double overtime game and a back-to-back. He played 48 minutes last night in that double overtime game, went for 73 fantasy points. So guy is absolutely insane, and that's really the point, is that he is still an elite player. He's made to play basketball. We don't have a lot of ownership projection on him either. He went for 65 fantasy points against the Magic the first time out that they played against one another. So for me, he's still somebody that possesses a ton of upside, and you're getting for him for under $10,000 on FanDuel, which is a really good price tag still.
So other guards that you can look at, Jamal Murray, if you don't want to spend up on Trae Young. John has Jamal Murray there. Eric Bledsoe, too. Eric Bledsoe's a little cheaper, John. And with that Giannis news that came out, I don't know how we don't go with Bledsoe over Murray. Do you think that ownership will be really, really high for Eric Bledsoe tonight?
For sure. I think you're going to see upwards of 50+% tonight on Eric Bledsoe. This season, if you take Giannis off the floor, and mind you, they're also without George Hill, who's the backup point guard, which means Bledsoe is going to have to play a ton of minutes as it is. This season, over 30% usage rate, averaging 1.5 fantasy points per minute, and an absolute elite matchup for him. De'Aaron Fox is one of the worst defenders in the NBA. So they're at home. He gets De'Aaron Fox. He's going to play all of the minutes. He could be just as easily the top scoring player on the slate. I don't say that with any sort of hyperbole. That's just the facts. He's that type of upside in this matchup.
Yeah, they got killed Sacramento last game. They played Milwaukee. Reggie Jackson you also have, which I think is a very, very good one. John, with no Derrick Rose on the floor and also with the departure of Andre Drummond, Detroit's still trying to figure things out when it comes to who's going to lead this team offensively. And if you look at the rest of the roster, at least the active roster, it almost seems like it's either Jackson or Christian Wood. But either way, especially on FanDuel, 5,900, you have to consider him tonight.
I agree with you. We did get word that Brandon Knight is going to be active at least for this game. So, something that wasn't available to them in past games.
Jackson can't play all the minutes, so Knight will get a few.
But he had been playing 35. So, I wonder, how much Knight, if he actually cuts more into Jackson, maybe Jackson ends up playing 28, 29 instead of the 35 with Knight being active. Again, this is his first game active with them, and he's come full circle because Knight was actually drafted by the Pistons all the way back then. Yeah, so I mean, maybe there's a little homecoming for him or something there. So I don't think Knight's going to make a huge impact by any means, but him being active, at least for me, given sort of the other news that's around and guys that are on the slate, I probably limit my Jackson exposure. Especially DraftKings at 66. I'm not going to pay that when I can pay 68 for Eric Bledsoe.
Yeah, the historian John and Pemba has a good point. With Knight playing, maybe Jackson gets downgraded a few minutes. We will have to see. Mike Conley, Don't like him when it comes to Donovan Mitchell's value when he's playing next to him a lot. But still, with against Dallas here, Luka Doncic still out. Mike Conley and Goran Dragic are some value options in the 5K range you could go with. John, when it comes to first Mike Conley going up against Dallas, you don't feel that Utah has too many shooting weapons? I always worry about that when considering guys like Ingles and Mike Conley. I feel comfortable when it comes to Bojan Bogdanovic getting those shots, but still, with all the mouths to feed, Mike Conley scares me a little bit.
So, early this year, I think that was a fair criticism. For whatever reason, since he's come back from injury and re-entered that starting lineup, we have 4 straight games now of over 30 minutes played. In those 4 games, 34, 42, 32, 35 DraftKings points. Now, 2 of those 3 games were against Portland. The other one was against Houston. Amazing spots to be an opposing point guard. Neither Portland or Houston defend the guard position. But Denver, it can be a tougher team, to play against. And he went for 42 against them. So right now we're sort of getting like almost prime production off Conley. My one question on tonight's slate is this is the first back-to-back for Utah since he's come back. And I don't know if he's going to be limited a little bit. If that ends up being the case, then obviously that takes a hit. But he's still $5,500 on DraftKings and like $53, I think, on FanDuel. So the price tag on him, he's 57 on FanDuel. So the price tag went up a little bit. He's 53 the other night. Like, he only needs 27 fantasy points. If he's playing 29 minutes instead of 34, I think he could still potentially hit that. And again, we're talking about a low-owned play, someone that's not going to be used a lot. If we do find out that Conley's going to be limited tonight, I think you can go to Clarkson, who had a monster night last night.
Yeah, with Clarkson, the only thing, remember, you mainly get the scoring, mainly. That's the one problem with Clarkson. So you're really chasing the points, but for the value, that's fine. The final guy you have in the point guard, and this is an interesting one, Goran Dragic. Now, John, I haven't seen a final call. Maybe I missed it, and you could tell me. I haven't seen a final call on Jimmy Butler, whether or not he's going to be active, but I like Dragic getting more shots in off the bench if Jimmy Butler is inactive for tonight's game. Have you seen anything regarding Butler on a final call?
I haven't seen a final call yet, and they're playing at 10:30, which means we probably won't get that call.
Right.
The most recent update was still that he is questionable. So this is probably a scenario where if you do have Goran Dragic in your lineup, maybe you keep him in a utility spot on DraftKings or a guard spot where if you need to, you can make that pivot. That being said, though, I'm still okay with Dragic coming off the bench. Like you mentioned, like he's still going to be a featured scorer for them off the bench. But obviously, and I had this in the playbook yesterday, his upside with Butler off the floor is tremendous. I liked him more than Nunn. Nunn is cheaper. I think people thought like Nunn starting, maybe I'll go in that direction. And we got Dragic at pretty low ownership, and he went off for 40 fantasy points. A very good spot for him again here, going up against Golden State. Kai Bowman isn't really a great player. They're just so depleted with talent right now.
It's like half stopgaps in Golden State.
Yeah, they have to. They sign guys off the street, off the G League. And if Dragic is off the bench, then that's who he's going to be up against as well. So I'm still buying in on Dragic here regardless, really.
Yeah, and when you talk about Kendrick Nunn versus Goran Dragic, when it comes to who has a chance to get you multi-category production, I'm going to actually go in the direction of Dragic just a little bit more. Can play both on and off the ball if needed, and especially if Jimmy Butler is out, it's a very good situation. Let's move on to shooting guard and talk about DeMar DeRozan going up against Denver. Denver missing a few midcourt guys. Will Barton, Michael Porter Jr. will be out, and I like that. For the San Antonio side from midcourt players, we've seen what DeRozan can do. He's not your typical guard forward that's going to start at the arc. This guy starts at the elbow. He's a mid-range player, but I like that. And I was telling Howard Bender and Jim Bowden that I like DeRozan at that spot because it makes it easier for him to crash the boards and help his rebounding total. John going up against the injured Denver Nuggets, I like DeRozan, and I like that you added him in the playbook.
Yeah, my one thing with DeRozan is everybody always talks about, they have Gary Harris, they have good Torrey Craig, good perimeter defenders. DeMar DeRozan's taken 2 total 3-point attempts over the last 10 games. He doesn't shoot from the outside. He slashes, he cuts to the lane, he gets to the free throw line. So all of those things, I'm not worried about the perimeter defense that Denver can throw out at him if he can go ahead and get to the hole and score. So I still think DeMar DeRozan's in a good spot. I know against Sacramento, it was a blowout. He only had 25 fantasy points. People certainly got burned in that sense, but you're right. I mean, one, he's contributing across other categories. And like I said before, the fact that he gets to the line, gets to the rim, can really help his point totals and give you that really nice floor level of production.
Yeah, I'm just going to go on about a 10-second rant, John, if you don't mind. Ben Simmons gets all this grief and stuff regarding not taking long-range shots. This guy doesn't either, and nobody talks about it, and it frustrates me.
Yeah.
And I'm fine with it. I'll keep going with DeRozan. If at this price point, it's a fair value. But if he's in that 6K range ever, if he's that low ever, I would always go after him. But DeRozan doesn't need to take 3-pointers. And with that, John, I love the multi-category upside for tonight against Denver. Gary Harris, I'm telling you, he's not 100%. They're throwing him out there. They need the defense from him that he's not even going to have to do against DeRozan. Right. So with that, I don't think Gary Harris 100%. This Nuggets team is not the same. I love DeRozan tonight from what you just said. We already talked about Chris Middleton. I don't think we need to really discuss more with that, except
an elite play. Just know that he's an elite play. Yes. He should literally be the first or second player you put in your lineup tonight. It's either Bledsoe, then Middleton, and Bledsoe.
Let me put it to you this way. I was building around Chris Middleton before Giannis was ruled out.
Yep. So, we said that on the podcast last night. He produces regardless.
Yes.
So the fact that there's no Giannis just increases all that production.
Exactly. Fred VanVleet. Now, here's something interesting. You have Fred VanVleet. I put Fred VanVleet in the starting 5 video, John, on FantasyAlarm.com. Fred VanVleet, I thought that Kyle Lowry was not going to be playing. Whiplash? It's almost like to me, if you're questionable with whiplash, you might as well not play. He's going to be active tonight. However, I still like Fred VanVleet against this Timberwolves backcourt that sucks at defense.
Well, that's what it's all about. I mean, one, Fred VanVleet's been producing all season long next to Kyle Lowry anyway, so Lowry being active doesn't really do much to change my feelings on him. Plus, we're getting news that D'Angelo Russell is going to make his debut. If Russell starts at the 2 guard, I mean, there's no defense being played there. I mean, if he starts at point guard, regardless, it's still a great matchup for the front court in general. So I do have Fred VanVleet, and I do like him a lot for the upside. I'm actually happy that D'Lo is playing because I think maybe this game becomes a little bit more competitive now. Because going in Toronto, Minnesota was, a big underdog here. But now having Towns and Russell, maybe we get more value out of those guys.
And you just made me more comfortable in putting VanVleet in the starting 5 video now because I'd much rather see D'Angelo Russell on defense than Malik Beasley and just about anybody else because Russell is a very, very soft defender. Some of the other value options you could consider, a guy that I even considered putting in the starting 5 video, John, because his minutes are starting to go up. We're seeing those minutes in the 20s, and that's Victor Oladipo. And he's going up against Brooklyn, who another team that just really doesn't play any defense. My one problem with Oladipo is that, to me, if you look at what he's done as a whole, it's really been just scoring, and he's not moving around as quickly. But as he gets more minutes and shakes that rust, that will be fine. But are we at that point with Oladipo? Because the price point on DraftKings is just too good to pass up at 4,200. 5,300, though, you think he'll hit that value?
I mean, obviously, it's a little bit more of a stretch on FanDuel for him to hit that, but I like that you get the extra point for the steals because that's Oladipo's, a good defender. That he's getting 28 minutes. He gives him that increased opportunity to go ahead and produce. But he's in the playbook solely for that DraftKings price tag at $4,200. Ownership, we have him listed at 50% tonight, which means he has to be in your cash games just for salary saving reasons. He's going to play 28 minutes at $4,200. He needs 21.5 fantasy points for 5X. That's something he can get out really without trying. He's just that talented of a player. So, and it's the Nets, so I'm buying in on Oladipo. I like him, like I said, a little bit better, obviously, on DraftKings. On FanDuel, Karis LeVert, and I know we haven't gotten to him yet, but he's only a couple more $100. I know that he's going to draw the Oladipo defense, but he's going to play more minutes, and he's been playing insane. I think I'd rather spend up for LeVert over Oladipo on FanDuel.
Yeah, no Kyrie Irving. Let's all remember that. Who would you rather spend $5,600 on FanDuel between Evan Fournier and Karis LeVert?
I'm still going to go Levert, but I put Fournier in there just because of how bad defensively Atlanta is.
Oh, they're in a great spot. He's going to be shooting a lot of threes.
Yeah, I mean, it is. This is definitely a smash spot. I put him in there as a really good cash game play. At $5,600, you throw him into cash game lineups. He's got, 35 fantasy point upside probably tonight. If he really hits his ceiling, he'll probably settle into that 28 to 30 range, which is going to pay off the $5,600. So you get the extra points for DraftKings at the 3-point line. And like I said, Atlanta could be worn down tonight. So Fournier, for me, probably a really good cash game option.
Do you still like Malik Beasley and Terrence Davis, who you have in the playbook, now that we know that Russell and Lowry are active?
So I still think Terrence Davis is fine coming off the bench. Obviously, he becomes a little bit more aggro because he doesn't have those starter minutes, but there's no Norman Powell. There's also no Serge Ibaka tonight. So, that could change their front court rotation a little bit. Maybe he sees time as like a small forward if they decide to go with Siakam at center, which they've done at times this year.
John, let me tell you about Terrence Davis for a second. OG Anunoby was given every opportunity to become this team's certified third scorer. And he's blown every opportunity offensively. And it's really let me down. It disappoints me. He earns his minutes off defense. He can't do anything consistent offensively. Terrence Davis has taken full advantage of Norman Powell being out. And he's rebounding as well. How often do we see guards pulling down consistent 8-rebound games? Not too much.
No, I agree. And early this year, OG was actually being fairly productive. Somewhere along the line, something shifted. I don't know if it's, Lowry being back, or if they were always sort of missing a guy in that rotation, and maybe that opened some things up for him. But you're right. Lately, he's been doing nothing. Davis has been stepping in. So I still like Davis off the bench. I think at his price tag at under $5K, it's still really solid, and it's going up against Minnesota. For Beasley, again, I wonder if D'Angelo Russell is going to be the point guard tonight, and maybe that'll hurt Jordan McLaughlin more than it would hurt me.
And that would be so stupid. Jordan McLaughlin has been good. I like the way he drives the floor. I think he complements Russell perfectly. Let Russell get integrated into the Timberwolves offense a little bit more and let him play off the ball and see how everyone's moving. The Wolves would be stupid to take McLaughlin off the floor at this point.
So it'll be interesting. Again, it's sort of an unknown, so I certainly would downgrade Beasley a little bit more than I had. Because I did have him in some example lineups today, so you'll have to make those pivots for those where if you feel more comfortable. And again, like someone like Ursi and Ilyasova just became a great punt play. If you have Beasley in your utility spot, you can slide in Ilyasova and save a bunch of cash.
Let's talk about some small forwards here, and someone who's really a power forward, but a small forward in this case, Pascal Siakam. What, John, you're that confident in Pascal Siakam that he'll be able to get by the likes of Juan Hernan Gomez?
I know, shocking,
right? Spellman, they're not challenging enough for you?
Spellman's already ruled out. They're not even playing Spellman. They used Josh Okogie actually as a power forward the other day in a small ball unit. So,
that's terrible.
Yeah, they don't have a big. I think I saw that, and I want to check if Naz Reid was ruled out too or not. Let's do that real quick. So Reid's ruled in. So Reid could potentially slide over and play some power forward for them as well. He's usually their backup center. That being said, I think Siakam's going to eat. I think he is a great spot for him, especially no Ibaka now. If they start Chris Boucher next to him, there's no offensive threat really with Boucher. The offense, at least Ibaka demands some shots. He'll get the ball, he can hit the outside game. Boucher's more of a developing player. Siakam's just going to dominate that front court.
Oh, John, I'd rather Siakam go up against Karl Anthony Towns personally because Towns is such a terrible defender.
Paper soft. Doesn't like to play defense.
No, he doesn't at all. And he stays at the arc. Oh, man, he was one of my favorites when he first came in, and now he just frustrates me whenever I watch him, unfortunately. Andrew Wiggins, he's the only game in town at this point. When it comes to the Warriors, it's really sad at this point, and the price point is only going to go up and up. I feel like, John, when it comes to Andrew Wiggins, he's going to start to not be below 8K moving forward for the rest of the way, unless Stephen Curry comes back and takes half his shots away from him, which I don't even think is possible because of the few options that the Warriors currently have.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I mean, Wiggins took, I think, 10, 12 shots in that debut, but the offense is still his. There's nobody really else that can get 10. Damian Lee, maybe. Your boy Jordan Poole. I don't remember we talked on Saturday. You mentioned Jordan Poole. he had another good game off the bench. I think his opportunity is going to increase. I see some people in our subscriber chat talking about Kyle Bowman. I didn't put in the playbook. I don't think Kyle Bowman's that good of a basketball player. I know he had 10 or 11 assists the other day. He's just purely playing out of necessity. They don't have like another point guard. I think Wiggins and guys like Poole or Damian Lee, and when Draymond Green comes back, those are players I have more interest in.
But John, remember, necessity on this type of team creates opportunity.
Yep, it's true.
I just blew your mind with that one, didn't I?
Well, I mean, like, they have to play somebody, right? Like, their backup point guard is somebody that they signed to a 10-day contract. That's they don't have the depth because they traded it all. So it's difficult to like totally discount him. But like when Draymond, if he's active tonight, which I think I saw that he was going to play, he was a point guard for a little while. They had him playing point. So like, is that going to cut in to Bowman, and then they have to use Paschal a little bit more? So to me, the only secure guys on that team are really Wiggins at this point.
And that's very, very sad. Let's move on to Miles Bridges, another guy who's made me sad for most of the year. So and you even write you're a fanboy of Bridges.
I'm a fanboy. Yeah, I'm a Mark.
Oh man, that is a sleeper gone wrong for me for going back.
But lately it hasn't been. So
it hasn't been lately.
I've been riding that train with you, Justin. I agree. I drafted him in leagues. I bought in with you, and the problem was they weren't committing to him. They were still playing Nick Batum at times. They were rotating in Marvin Williams and Michael King. Like all of these guys were seemingly like getting other minutes. And they weren't fully giving the 30 plus to Bridges, which they should have been. Well, now they are. They got rid of Michael Kidd-Gilchrist. They got rid of Marvin Williams. They have Cody Martin, but he's hurt now. Nick Batum isn't seeing any run. Occasionally Malik Monk gets in there, but he's not really impacting Bridges anymore either. So like Bridges is getting 30 plus minutes now on a nightly basis. For the last 5 games, he scored 20 actual points. He's giving you some of the peripheral stats. The last game hurt me deep, because I had a really good lineup the other night. I won some good money. Bridges was the only DraftKings snowflake player I had, and he had 20 actual points. He just didn't give me anything else.
And that's what he does sometimes, John, unfortunately, when he's camping out at the arc. But I'll say this, Sekou Doumbouya is not going to stop him.
No. The boy is not. They're starting Christian Wood. I don't know what kind of defender Wood is by any means. I know that he's a great fantasy point per minute on the offensive end. They did get Markieff Morris is going to be active tonight as well, but I'm still going with Bridges. I think he's an athletic player. He's finally starting to get that offensive game coming. So, and he can cut to the rim. They have no rim protection there. Thon Maker is not going to get up there and block his shot.
Oh, I hate Thon Maker. Let's not even waste our time on him. Right. Let's move on to Jay Crowder, who is very intriguing, John, because Jay Crowder, even though he's still getting used to everything in Miami, I especially like him if Jimmy Butler ends up not playing. But still, the good thing about Jay Crowder is that he can help out at the 4, and with no Myers Leonard, there's some open minutes there. Yeah. And Jay Crowder, yes, he had the double-double in the debut. Everyone's going to want to ride the hot game. But now the opportunity once again presents itself. And if you're going to go with him or an Iguodala, I'm not going with Iggy when it comes to DFS. He's an intangibles guy. Crowder does other things that will actually help us in DFS.
The price tag with Crowder is what's going to make everybody go there. $4,200 on FanDuel, $45 on DraftKings. Again, I wanted to track how he was going to be used yesterday. We were sort of recording the podcast while that game was going on. And Kelly Olynyk played like 8 minutes. They put Crowder in, and Crowder was basically playing the 5, or the 4 rather, for the majority of the game. He played power forward at times in Boston. He played power forward in Utah. So is this definitely a spot that he's accustomed to playing? They have no depth, as you said. They're not going to put Udonis Haslem on the floor. Like, they don't have any front court. So I think it's no problem at all going back to Crowder. Even if Jimmy Butler plays today, I think Crowder is still a guy that has to be in a lot of lineups.
It's too cheap, and just when you think you can't get any cheaper, Juan Hernan Gomez, you have him in here, $3,800 on FanDuel, $3,600 on DraftKings, and I think it makes perfect sense because we talked about Minnesota and the lack of depth in the front court. It's Juan Hernan Gomez and James Johnson. Now, John, it's a cheap price point, and I'm willing. They got Juan Hernan Gomez for a reason. They got him to play him. He can help out, especially at the arc, but will also drive if the lane is open. However, my one thing with Juan Hernan Gomez, James Johnson is a better ball handler, and they're going to give him minutes. And again, this is a GPP punt play, so it can still work. There's room for more than one power forward, but that's still that's still on my mind that James Johnson is a good ball handler and can help run the point if needed.
I agree. I went with Hernangomez because he did start, but Johnson did see the 20 minutes, and you're not wrong. Like we've seen James Johnson, as you said before, there are times that they played him at point forward, despite the fact that he's basically, the size of a power forward center. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. I still think Hernangomez is probably the guy I would rather play over him at the current moment, but they're both very cheap. James Johnson, $3,400 as a power forward center. Hernangomez just gives you that value over at small forward. And we always talk about it a lot on FanDuel. Like, you're sort of desperate for depth at small forward on FanDuel. So he's specifically in the playbook for that reason.
Let's move on to power forward and talk about some heavy hitters tonight. First, Anthony Davis going up against Phoenix. And John, again, I haven't seen an update. Maybe one's come out since we started talking on DeAndre Ayton. He's dealing with a little bit of an ankle sprain, if he's going to play or not. Have you seen anything?
I haven't. And what stinks is that the Suns forego their morning shoot around today, which I think usually is an indicator where they're like, oh, if he didn't shoot around, they just didn't do it. So he's a true game time decision. He's going to test it when he takes the floor tonight during their shoot around before the game, which means we're probably not going to know at all until 10 o'clock if he's going to be active or not, which, again, puts you in a tough situation if you're playing Davis. Again, if you're going to put him in your lineup, put him in your forward, put him in your utility so you can pivot if you need to. That being said, I think Davis is still a play tonight because if Ayton sits, they don't have Aaron Baines. They don't have really any other front court.
They don't have Saric. They don't have Kaminsky.
No,
it's really Ayton and Diallo. That's about it.
It would be Cheikh Diallo, who's like 6'6", starting at center for them tonight. And I know that Davis doesn't start at center, but he plays a lot of time there. He would just destroy that front court. It's like Oubre and Ayton next to one another. It would just be lobs the AD the whole time. So FanDuel obviously is a little expensive at 10-4, and they finally upped his price over on DraftKings at 10-3, but he may only need 3 quarters tonight to go for 60. So
they may have to put Mikal Bridges on Anthony Davis. They're so desperate.
Yeah, they're going to have to for sure double team him, but they don't have a guy big enough.
That's scary. You know what? And even this could be a good volume play, even though it's costing us over 10K. In 25 minutes, why can't he get us a deep double-double?
No, I agree. And maybe, just again, who knows, maybe Booker shoots the lights out. Maybe Oubre gets hot. Like, they have guys that are capable of keeping them in games. And if it's the LeBron and AG show on the other side, then it's so be it. But I don't mind the dart throw here in tournaments for Anthony Davis tonight. Again, there's a ton of value on the slate. You can fit whoever you really want.
Kristaps Porzingis. I'm surprised with these ownership numbers I'm seeing in the DFS playbook, John. And that's because Doncic is still out. Now, I know he only scored 11 points in his last game, but still, with Porzingis and going up against Utah and Bogdanovich, do you really think he's going to be challenged that much?
So I think if he has to go down into the paint, like I know Gobert, we've kind of knocked his defense lately. He's still a good shot blocker, but he's not like – and I feel like it's always unjust because he's still like a reigning defensive player of the year or top 3 ranked defensive player of the year candidate. But he's not going to be able to guard Porzingis on the perimeter or if he steps outside the paint. So I'm still in on Porzingis. He's pretty much gone for 50 fantasy points in every game that Luka hasn't played, with the exception of the other night when he got in foul trouble. So I think he's fine. And again, no one's going to be on him. There's going to be low ownership there tonight. I don't play him on DraftKings at 9K. Or FanDuel rather at 9K, but DraftKings at 8,400, I think is a good enough tag for him.
Now, why would I spend 8,100 on FanDuel on Christian Wood when I can spend $400 more and get the Dominator himself, Bam Adebayo?
I mean, have you seen what Wood's been doing lately?
I know he's had a couple of games of double-double.
So it's a few things. It's Christian Wood. We've long touted him as an elite fantasy point per player option. The last 2 games, 52 and 41 fantasy points, and he's getting Charlotte. And Charlotte has been a team that we've attacked front courts all season long. He's only $7,200 on DraftKings, which is a steal. I'm still paying the price tag. If you only need 40 fantasy points out of him on FanDuel, 2 blocks the other day and a steal. He's averaging almost a block per game, and that's with his per minute totals of 18 minutes. So he's averaging almost a block per game and 18 minutes per game, and now he's playing 30. He's playing double that. So Christian Wood is, don't be sleeping on him. He's about to blow up for those who haven't paid attention yet.
Now you have PJ Washington in here as well in that same matchup. You just think he's going to get a lot of open threes tonight?
Salary saver. You can stretch the floor a little bit. Again, they don't have Cody Martin, and Martin had really been a part of that rotation where they've shifted Bridges to the power forward, and that has taken Washington off the floor. They got rid of Marvin Williams. So Washington's really the only true power forward that they have really on that team, unless they want to go Bridges. At times this year, they played Cody Zeller power forward if they wanted to go with Hernan Gomez at the center spot. But I think Washington's going to see close to 30 minutes. And, yeah, I think there's some sort of double-double upside. We've seen it from him this year. And he can shoot the three, not well, but he has that outside range that he likes to take. So, I think Washington is just a sneaky salary saver. $4,400 on DraftKings, and nobody ever plays Charlotte. So, he's a guaranteed low ownership play.
Any love for the Nuggets power forwards, either Paul Millsap, who will be on a little bit of a minutes restriction, or Jeremy Grant, who will be playing a lot of minutes in this game? And I don't like San Antonio's front court at all, but for almost a punt play, Jeremy Grant's price point close to the PJ Washington's. Do you like him at all, John?
Yeah, I mean, the fact that he still played 30 minutes was super encouraging because this is a guy that we were paying upwards of $6K for, just a couple games ago. But Millsap being back and they're at home, eventually they're going to work this back into a more even timeshare. So I'm not really playing those guys anymore. I mean, if you want to go game stack and throw a dart out there, then I think that's perfectly fine. Someone that didn't make the playbook because it was kind of late breaking news, it was Ersan Ilyasova. He is mint price on FanDuel and he's $3,200 over on DraftKings. You have to play him. I mean, I understand that he hasn't always popped off when Giannis has been out, but he's going to play 25 to 30 minutes tonight. They don't
You just need 10 and 7 from him, John.
Yeah, and he's going to give you that. He can give you some range. So Ilyasova as your min value play tonight, I think he's going to be very, very highly owned. We saw ownership upwards of 70% the last time Giannis sat because he was min price. And I think you're going to see that again just to fit everybody in the lineup. And it's Sacramento. So, they don't have a lot of depth right now either. They're pretty short in their front court. So
we may not see Marvin Bagley III back again this year. I've been reading reports.
Yeah, I mean, Holmes just got ruled out again. So did Jabari Parker. The other day,
such a tease, Holmes. Holmes is such a tease. It's like he's really close, we promise, and then they break the promise.
I know. They started Bielitsa. They started Harry Giles at center the other day. So Ilyasova is going to be a good spot.
So let's move on to center and talk about some of the heavy hitters at center. I mean, you have Karl Anthony Towns, Nikola Jokic. Who do you prefer if you're going to be spending $10K or higher between the two, John?
I like Towns a lot tonight. The fact that D'Lo's back, I think it's going to help that game become a little bit more competitive. The fact that he's not going up against Serge Ibaka. Not that Ibaka is the defender he once was, but he's still a better defender than Chris Boucher, who's very foul happy, or Siakam, who earlier this year was very foul happy. They don't have a big body to throw at Towns right now. I mean, that offense, the two-man show that those two guys are going to run, D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns, is going to be pretty impressive to see. So I think Towns, now I'm giving him the edge over Jokic. I did have Jokic prior as sort of my top spend up, but Towns is leapfrogging him right now.
My guy tonight is someone that you have in this playbook, and that's Nikola Vucevic.
Yeah.
Hawks coming off a double overtime game. He's had 2 awesome games against them before. He's sub 9K on both sites. Lock him into all my lineups tonight, John. I think that's all that needs to be said about him.
I agree. I put him in again. Last night I called him my favorite center. In the playbook, I said he's probably my top overall center tonight, just given the price point. The one thing that I think is maybe worth considering here, and it's not totally true because we've been targeting Atlanta at the center spot now for a little bit, but Dwayne Dedmon is a better defender than Alex Len ever was. So the fact that Dedmon played 32 minutes the other day, or last night rather, and had 5 blocks, I'm not saying he's going to give Vucevic a ton of trouble by any means, but he's at least more of a breathing, more than a warm body at center, which is what they had before. So I still like Vucevic a ton. I think this is a great spot, knowing that they're coming off that back-to-back, and we've been going at centers heavily against Atlanta this year. But yeah, the price point is good there for sure.
You have Brook Lopez as well, which is very intriguing. Doesn't get a lot of boards, but will score a lot against the Sacramento front.
It's all about the blocks too,
and he'll get blocks as well.
Leads the league in blocks, second in the league in blocks, 2.6 blocks per game. He had 9 blocks against Phoenix the other day. I mean, if you hit right on Brook Lopez in one of those high block games, now there's no Giannis where his fantasy points per minute jump up. I mean, 5,300, and we mentioned they're starting Harry Giles at center. So like or I mean, I haven't seen if Alex Len is active or not, but like if they he's ruled out. Okay, good. I was gonna say if they put Alex Len in tonight, like don't sleep on Brook Lopez. I got him in GPPs tonight. His ownership is probably gonna be a little bit higher now, which kind of stinks because I had him in GPPs beforehand. But I like him a lot.
No, Brook Lopez. You know what? And he doesn't need to rebound in this kind of matchup. He'll score you 15 points.
No, he doesn't need to rebound at all.
Right, and he'll get you those blocks and make up for it. You talked about Dwayne Dedmon. I mean, fatigue may play a factor, but he wasn't getting a lot of love when he was on Sacramento. Now back with Atlanta, familiarity is key, and there aren't really any other options. It's him, Damian Jones, and Bruno Fernando.
And Fernando continues to be on like a 12-minute limit.
Right.
Damian Jones started, and I'm actually upset because I had Dedmon in lineups last night, and I thought maybe he would start, and then they put Damian Jones in the starting lineup. I pivoted off Dedmon, then Dedmon goes and plays the 33 minutes. What I'm loving is the last handful of games in which he's played over 30 minutes. 3 of them were with Sacramento. He went for 30 fantasy points, 41 and 35. So if you give this man 30 plus minutes, people, kind of forgot about him because he just wasn't playing for Sacramento. Last year, in the last 2 seasons with Atlanta, he was a pretty solid player. He was giving you almost a double-double on a night, and he gave you some block upside. So at $4,400 again, I know it's a tougher spot for him against Vucevic, but if you're looking for a salary saver, I mean, he's a guy that has produced.
He can hit some long-range shots, too. Final 2 guys you have for center of the playbook, DeAndre Jordan, which is very interesting because he doesn't need a lot of minutes in order to produce. Right. Doesn't produce. I'll have a lot of offensive moves, but will still get those boards and blocks for you going up against Indiana and their second units going behind Jared Allen. And then you have Thon Maker as well. Between the two, John Thon Maker is getting open minutes from Andre Drummond, but Christian Wood does have the priority. Yeah. Would you rather spend $5,000 for Jordan or go value and in the 4K range, the early 4Ks, and pay for Thon Maker?
So the Maker, I put him in there before I knew that Markieff Morris was going to be active tonight. I think that they're, and Dwayne Casey has said as much, like they're pretty committed to Christian Wood. They're set on giving him the minutes. They want him to shine. I think with Markieff Morris active, Maker's the one that's going to get the hit here because Wood can play center. And I like DeAndre Jordan. I mean, I put Jared Allen. I threw him a mention there. I think if you want to go with him, that's fine because we've been going up against this Pacers front court for a while. They're not a good defensive team. Like Turner, for whatever reason, is a good shot blocker, but not a strong defender. Sabonis doesn't play much defense at all either. Jared Allen in 2 games this year is averaging 26 fantasy points in 22 minutes. But I love just kind of throwing DeAndre Jordan in like my lineups as flyers. He's a little bit more expensive than I normally pay for him, but he's a guy that in 20 minutes can go get you a double-double with a couple blocks and steals. He's also a very underrated passer. So like there's a lot of times where I've had him in my lineups and he's giving me 6x at $4,400 because he's giving you that production. 5K tonight, I'm still okay with it. I think he's a better player than people give him credit for now because he's coming off the bench, and this is a favorable spot for him.
Any love for Cody Zeller, who's pretty cheap going up against Detroit? I mean, look, with Christian Wood, you could still score on the guy. I mean, we might as well, and if we're in a GPP, test this new Detroit front court without Andre Drummond a little bit. Do you think Cody Zeller could come through for maybe a 10-8 game?
I wish they would just commit to him to playing more minutes. Like earlier this year, they were giving him like 30 minutes, and he's giving us a double-double almost every night.
The problem is he doesn't always put up the offense, and then Willie Hernan Gomez comes in. And that's the thing. Like they've gone back and forth with the timeshare. I think what did Zeller in this year was actually getting hurt because he was playing very well. He got hurt. They had to play Biyombo. They had to play other guys. Those players started playing well. They brought him back. They didn't have a power forward because they brought him back as Washington got hurt, and they started playing Zeller more at power forward. They just need to get rid of the timeshare. I mean, I understand that Hernan Gomez is a solid player when he's on the floor, but the fact that they're both splitting time, like they're not, I understand. I just said, I like DeAndre Jordan in the time split, but to me, he's a more proven player to give me the double-doubles and the blocks in 22 minutes than a guy like Zeller or Hernan Gomez does. So, there's not Drummond there anymore, and they're actually allowing, a lot of fantasy points. Over the last 2 weeks, actually, Detroit allowing the most fantasy points to the center position. It's just that, like, if one goes cold, you have to pick and choose, So
It's tough if you're game stacking. Again, no one's going to be on this Charlotte-Detroit game tonight.
I know. I'm thinking of betting it, and I'm trying to mentally talk myself out of it right now, John. So we'll have to wait and see. He's John Impemba at JMpemba777, writer of tonight's DFS NBA Playbook. I'm Justin Fensterman. Again, you can catch Alarm After Hours on SiriusXM Fantasy Sports Radio tonight, midnight to 2 a.m. Eastern, all week long. It'll be me and Howard Bender, and it'll be a whole ton of fun. We're going to unleash some fury. That's what we do. John, great talking with you. Let's dominate tonight, all right?
Yeah, let's go win some money, Justin.
Yep, follow me at Fensty Sports and get ready to win. Get your plays in. It's almost lock time. See you then.